Hey, gang. I'm back here for another CirdecSongs conversation. I'm changing the name. They're not interviews, they're conversations. I would appreciate it very much if you would subscribe to my channel, like this here video, comment. I love comments. And most importantly, turn on that notification bell so you know when I do some new work. I am having what I'm calling an old home week this week. For those of you who don't know, I am from St. Louis, and I moved to
Came off
Chicago.
for a minute.
Yeah, how's that?
Went out for a minute. We good.
My guest fell out for a second here. So, but anyway, I'm from St. Louis. I live in Chicago right now, but I've made a lot of great friends in St. Louis, and I'm talking to a few of them this week, starting with the gentleman you'll see on your screen any second now. I have known him for, 27 years, something like that now.
Woo.
Something like that. It's craziness. He is one of the finest guitar players I've ever come across, and more importantly, he is my friend. He is Billy Barnett. And how are you doing, Billy? Nice to
Hey,
see you.
Cedric, nice to see you, buddy.
How are things in my old hometown?
Hey, it's getting better. Let's just put it that way. But it's very hot here. I think it's going to be 101 today.
Yeah, nice. You passed some of that heat up to us, and
Oh,
I would
really?
appreciate. Yeah, it's going to be in the 90s this week with high humidity, and I would appreciate it if you would take that back because
Okay.
because I'm copping an attitude because I actually had to turn on the air conditioner, but so that's a whole different
Oh
thing.
my gosh.
We are we're just on the other side of COVID now. How are things going with that?
Uh, well, I had played since 1979, about probably 4 nights a week up until 2020.
Yeah,
So when that all stopped, it was very strange, but the whole thing, every writer, as you know, recorded then or wrote a book, or if you're a
yeah.
poetry, if you're an artist, you use that time to your advantage. And so I did that. I did a record, and a lot of practicing. I never did get the government money per se, but it was very strange. But you know, now everybody, it was kind of weird. The kids were going to school at home. The wife was working from home. You
Yeah,
can't really gig over the internet, so
it's tough. I saw a couple of people do it, like Todd Rundgren did a stream, and a couple other
he's the
people like
king of
that.
that, but he was doing that way
Yeah,
before. And a lot of
yeah,
people were
yeah,
doing lessons via Zoom, but man, you really can't teach well with over the screen like this unless you're right next to each other. But I'm sure they've got things down to now where it's pretty incredible, but I prefer to I want to see how they're doing and not just,
right,
but
right.
hey, we all
That's what
survived it, Cedric. That's all that matters, man.
that's
Some
that's
of
the
us did.
important thing. And I know you never go far without a guitar handy, or you never go anywhere without a guitar that's not far away. And you noticed the pin on my shirt today, and you told me that you had a special surprise for
Oh
me. So,
yes. Well,
so
Cedric, I
wow,
used to have this in the lesson guitar room. This is a 1948 K television model with the Art Deco. But I'm also
it's
a fan
it's
of the pin you have on there. So anyway, Star
my
Trek.
my hero. Now I know why you were my teacher. Which is a live long and prosper, folks. But don't go away because we have a we have
The new Star
a ton
Trek
of
don't make it
ton
for
of
me,
interviews.
man. No.
Oh, it's not for. I'm loving it. Strange New
I'm
Worlds
gonna
is
have to
awesome.
get more into it.
Yes, you are. We're going to have a long discussion about that after after we get done here. Because trust me, it's a couple of them are really worth your time. But as I mentioned, you were my teacher, and that was 20 odd years ago, and you were pretty doggone good then. So I can only imagine that you've matured since then. But you're not just a guitar player, no?
I play everything but reeds, and I'm a writer. I I write for my own amusement at this point. I'm working on my 14th record right now, and
Yeah.
my problem, I've always been called that I don't really stick to one style, and that's true. And if you listen to the first album by Jimmy, it had jazz, blues, rock, funk, and everything on it. I'm never gonna change from that, so that's fine with me.
And
You know.
that's why I like listening to you play. I in my book I did a chapter on where you work. It's a lovely little guitar shop called J Gravity Strings. I used to hang out there a lot. I used to do my paperwork there when I was on the beat. I would just
Hmm.
come in there and hang out and write my reports because it was a great mental health break for me. But even then, I called you a jazz man or a blues man, and that's just not accurate. You're just all over.
Well, I
You're
love
all over the place.
classical. I studied classical from a great player here in town, which was the upright bass player for the St. Louis Symphony, and he was also an exceptional classical guitar player. And I studied with this jazz guitar player, William Linehan, Bill Linehan, who's, you know, he'll think about something an hour before he plays it, where I would think about maybe a day after I play it, you know. So it gets
It's
the guitar, really, as you're coming back to it, which I'm proud of you doing, but the guitar, I worked at his shop for a long time, and it seems like I almost seen a decline in guitar music like 5 years ago. I'm starting to see it start to come back up a little more.
yeah, yeah,
People are getting more interested in that kind of music, and with the like him or not, man, Nuno Betancourt's got the first guitar solo on the radio in like what 5 years
yeah,
with
yeah.
that new thing.
It's,
So I
it's
think
scary. And
there. I love all kinds of music, and it's just tough to decide on which factor. I mean, like you, if you wake up in the morning, you might listen to some Schubert or some Bach, and later on you're in a Black Sabbath. Next thing you're in Napalm Death,
yeah,
and you might be in some Miles. Who knows? It should be a mood thing. Don't you agree?
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because everything is about mood. The only rule I have is I try to play jazz on Sunday for my dad, for my departed father. So,
Right, right.
that's why I have Jazz Sunday. So at least
Keeps
two
on your
records go
will.
on. At least two jazz records go on before I go wandering off, someplace else. But I mean, it used to drive me crazy, and by drive me crazy, I mean I deeply admired the fact that you could play pretty much anything. I would bring you some, shall we say, not easy music to play from time to time, like a liquid tension experiment with John Petrucci blazing all over the place, and
Oh yeah.
that kind of that King Crimson stuff, Adrian Belew stuff, and you would just listen to it a couple of times and just play it, and that
Well, I got it blessed with a pretty good, decent ear, and with that, and just trying to be open and listening to a lot of music, I think is the most important. Just uh, be open. Period. You know how a lot of people
yeah,
like, oh, I only listen to blues, man, or I only listen to rock, or I only listen to, you know, straight ahead jazz. I'm sorry, but if
yeah,
you ask
yeah,
what jazz is to an old guy, it's banjo, riverboat music, and it's just everybody. Nowadays, I think it will just be music, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Like I
yeah,
think in maybe 100 years, you won't see a black or a white or Chinese person. We're all going to be kind of like neutral if we make it, and music might be in the same place. And
yeah.
everybody's all worried about the AI thing stealing the music and the art thing, and actually we we do that. We've been doing that since Bach or since the caveman days. That we'll hear something and kind of mix it up and come out, be it your own. So
Sure,
I
sure.
don't really know what to think about the whole AI thing. I don't think it's going to destroy the music industry, or
I certainly hope not. And
well, they can't
getting back
tour for
to
one.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Or
we
like Joe
talked
Walsh
about
said, they can't tear up a hotel room.
that's true. Kind
You
of take
know.
some of the fun out of it, I guess. I don't know, but you talked about guitar coming back, and I, for one, think it's what's helped a lot is bands like the Roots, because people are seeing that, yeah, they have a rapper who fronts the band, but there's a band back there. There's a group of people who actually play instruments. So I'm wondering if that's not a factor in the guitar starting to come back.
Yeah, and also I was in a wedding band like 2 years ago, and we did a job. There was a lot of young people, and at the end of the night, a bunch of people came up. Oh, we've never seen live music. We heard a real band. And this was like right after pandemic too, so it may have been before that. But some people have didn't even notice that how when we were kids, that's how, see a live band. That was, oh, wow. I mean, nowadays with music on your phone and everywhere around, people are like in phone and get a million songs for $1 if
Yeah,
you buy a new
yeah,
phone. It tends to cheapen it to people that aren't like super right brain like yourself and a lot of us other.
yeah. It devalues everything. I mean, people don't realize first of all how hard you work to come up with this stuff. I mean, this is your music's coming from your brain, and that's not something everybody can do. It takes a special kind of person to come up with compositions in the first place. To say nothing of learning an instrument and making those two halves meet.
Yeah, that's why you can't really say Alan Holdsworth was better than. That's why one of the things I hate about oh, this guy was the best. He's the best. It's like there is no
Yes,
best. There's
exactly.
no
You walk.
beautifulest woman. There's no best food. Give me a
Yeah,
fucking break. It
it's completely subjective, which is why you walk right into what I was going to talk about. Because people, who's the best guitar player ever? I'm like, that person doesn't exist. First of all, when you ask me who the best guitar player is, you assume I've heard every guitar player on earth, and I haven't.
right.
And I have often said, if you want to talk about best, some of the best musicians I've ever heard are working in the back of guitar shops repairing gear and what
Well,
have you.
it was like Les Paul said to the common man, like the best guitar players is whoever that guy is a buddy with.
Yeah, yeah,
You know.
pretty much, pretty much. But for the sake of our audience, I know you, but tell us real quick the story of your life. What got you into music to begin with?
Oh well, man, I was always been addicted to music since a little child. My mom played organ and piano in the Baptist church. My dad sang in it, and I had an older brother, that tried to play guitar, and I heard him. We had an old harmony guitar similar to like this thing here, and I
Right.
heard him in his room sitting going like, and I thought I could do better than that. So I would sneak in and steal the guitar and just learn by ear and like the when I was a kid, Black Sabbath and Jimi Hendrix, of course, and the Beatles. Like my brother gave me Hendrix's first album, the Beatles album when I was learning. Go, these are two pretty good albums, man. So if that was my first introduction to guitar playing, I could
Yeah,
have asked. Really, even though I'm 63 now, I think I was raised up in probably the most hotbed music time. The
I would agree.
60s and early 70s, pretty good time for music.
Was there an aha moment? That moment when you just knew that it was time to
Well, I had
time to pick
always
up a
been
guitar.
in a band, since I was a kid, and I broke my talus bone in my right foot on the way to a Yes concert in '78. So I was stuck in the hospital, in my bed for like 6 months, and all I did was practice like 12 hours a day because there was nothing else to do.
Right.
And when I got out, was able to walk again about in '79, I got to see Andre Segovia and Joe
Ooh,
Pass in the same week. And at that time, it kind of blew me away. Like, wow. Before then, I was into McLaughlin, of course, and uh, Alan Holdsworth, around about 74, 75. So when Eddie Van Halen came out in '78, everybody was freaking out him. I was like, well, man, Alan Holdsworth plays like that, but only with one hand.
yeah.
So I was
See,
never into the big cocky, I was more of a Randy Rhoads fan than a Van Halen.
yeah.
But you know, uh, I've always known what I wanted to do. It's just being able to do it's been another story.
I got you. And never underestimate the power of your influence because when one of the guys I was training, I was a training officer as a policeman, kids, for my last 5 years. I played my music in the car because my car, my music, those were the rules. And one of the kids I was training trying to say, "Oh yeah, I'm really into Van Halen." I said, "Well, if you're into Van Halen, let me try this guy named Alan Holdsworth on you, and you could figure out. You'll hear where Van Halen came from." And of course, I was an idiot for saying something like that, according to him, until I played it. And, oh, I hear it now. So if you're into Van Halen and you haven't heard Holdsworth, please do yourself a
Sure,
favor.
and
Yeah,
I think there's room for everybody, man. Like I went through a period of teaching guitar for a long time and playing so much technical stuff. I think it was around about 1998. I was learning. I had a bunch of Sean Lane stuff. I was working out for people, and then I was doing a lot of Jocko transcriptions and all kinds of really difficult music. And man, it got to the point where I wasn't enjoying it. You know, if you
Yeah.
listen to just all fusion, it kind of makes, well, fuck, man. And I had moved to Branson because just I had lost a lot of things went was south with an ex and daughter and stuff. So I just moved to Branson. I had a audition there and I made it. And I moved there for some stupid reason for a year. But
I
one thing
remember that.
ironic, I was listening to the radio station and they had a station from Arkansas, and they were playing some this who I love is Junior Kimbrough. I don't know
I've
if you
heard.
ever
Yeah.
heard of it, but he sounds like he's
I've heard.
playing
Yeah.
guitar with a fish hook or with a meat cleaver.
Okay.
Just so raw and just crazy, and it made me go, hey, that he's really saying something. So it made me go back to kind of starting beginning again, just
Yeah.
not how fast you talk or how many words, how many fancy words you would say, educated, just communication. And one thing I will say about the guitar that there's always something to work on, man.
Oh yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always a
Definitely.
style or a technique or because 90% of guitar players who don't play, a lot or whatever, they play the music they got out of high school, or most of them,
Yeah.
whatever high school they listen to, and that's it. And if you hear older people go, "There's no good music anymore," it's like because they just haven't tried to listen to any
Yeah.
good
That
music.
drives me crazy. That drives. I'm
I
like,
was telling somebody about Mastodon the other day. They're going, that sounds stupid, man. I go, man, these guys are killer. There's so much good music out there. And I think the whole internet thing, it is the best of times and the worst of times at the same
yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. Um, I reached the point. I used to bring you shredders and what have you. Guys are playing at 10 million miles an hour, but and I'm not going to go as far as some of my other friends who say that that kind of music has no soul, but at the same time, when you're playing fast just for the sake of playing fast, it gets
Your guy, man,
boring.
dude.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, David Gilmour says more with 8 notes than a lot of people say with 800 notes.
And
you know,
I got to see the Pink Floyd tour. The Wall tour, and or whatever what they had, the stereophonic system they took on tour with them.
yeah,
May
yeah. I
have,
remember.
may
I
have
think
been
it was the
Dark
wall.
Side of the Moon tour. But I remember just hearing him hit one note and it just echoing up, and I was like, thinking, man, that's the most beautiful shit right there. So,
One note.
I've spent my whole life trying to play fast, and now I'm learning not, just not to play fast. And
Yeah,
although my
yeah,
fingers are still pretty good shape, and I still work on a lot of notey stuff, usually the melodies that you can sing, melody will always be king, man.
yeah.
You listen to
Absolutely.
any Beatles song, man, the guitar solos are just as important as any vocal line.
Agreed. Agreed.
So, it makes us think back to, I think and humans will always like to see other human beings playing music,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Agreed. Make me feel bad. How much time do you spend practicing a day so I can feel like a
I
slacker?
still spend about 3 hours a day. I'll
I
start
like
out
it.
with classical music, just play my classical for about 45 minutes. I'll take a break, work, and plus, if I work at the guitar shop, I have a special guitar, which is like if you go to hell and they hand you a guitar, this would be it, because the strings are like an inch off the fingerboard, and I've got like 14 to 60s on there, and I'll sit and play that for about 2 hours, working on technique, and then you know it gets to a point you can practice your ass off, but you're not getting any better, man.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah. I can understand it because
Physically, I mean, like I think on the planet right now, excuse me, the probably the most technical guitarist that is musical and it completely blows me with is this Mattias Manusco.
not
You hit
familiar. Okay,
you hit him? Yeah,
haven't
you
heard of
are. Mattias Manusco. Check him out. He's got the new. He plays a totally weird style, Cedric, where no pick,
it. Okay.
and he plays like Jocko on his right
Oh,
hand. But
interesting.
he'll do it, and then all of a sudden it's like, blah, 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 blah. I mean, just so. I'll send you the link, man. But he's the new king of total. I was a huge, and I've met him before. Sean Lane. Like I met him in like '95 in
Yeah.
Memphis when I played there, and he completely astounded me. And then I saw him at the NAMM show. I saw the '99 NAMM show where it was Paul Gilbert, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Reb Beach, and some other dude I can't remember. Sean Lane. They were all skinny and long hair and slanky. Man, he's like 300 pounds up there with a baseball cap on. And
Okay.
it got to the point where they all took their guitars off and laid them at his feet on stage while he was
Because he
playing.
was that good. That's,
But
that's
I think, BB King's one of my favorite guitarists. Carlos
oh
Santana,
yeah,
I still
yeah.
love John McLaughlin. Jeff Beck was I did a Jeff Beck tribute in April, did like everything off Blow by Blow and Wired,
Okay.
which were
Man,
two of my favorite
that's
guitars.
classic stuff. That
Yeah.
one of the things I loved about hanging out in the shop is that guitar players, I'll say on your level, guitar players on your level that play out professionally are not easily impressed. So I could give you a name of a player, and you can just kind of look at me and kind of roll your eyes a little bit, like, yeah, he's a player.
There's
So,
room
but
for
then you give
everybody.
me
I
a name
mean,
like the one you
like
just
you
gave
could
me,
study
and
a year just slide guitar,
yeah,
which I play, but you can't. And a lot of shred guys are a lot of you'll have the instrument set up for that style of music. Like and it also depends on your finger strength, but most 90% shred guys have super low action, use like a 9 or an 8, and if you just look at the
right.
string, it's going to vibrate. I'm heavy handed, so I use an 11 to a 50 and like a 13 on my acoustics, which,
Yikes. Okay, that's heavy duty.
when I met Pat Martino, he had a 16 on his fucking E string and a 72 on his low E.
Good Lord.
And he was like five
Was
foot
he in
six,
stand?
and you would shake his hand and be like, "Oh fuck!" And put you down
I
with that
mean,
grip, man.
was he still in standard tuning, or did he do something
Standard
else?
tuning, dog.
Wow, that's because I remember Stevie Ray Vaughan with playing in 13s, but he was
But
tuned down
tuned
half a
down to E
step.
flat, it feels like an 11 still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because even I,
Even though they don't bend any, you're not going to
even
see Pat Martino well anymore because he passed away. But he would not bend a whole step, maybe a quarter step on strings. Jazz guitar players don't bend strings.
yeah, this is true. Yeah, this is true. You also play a wide variety of guitars. Is there one that you're partial to, and if so, why?
Well, my favorite guitar, I'll show it to you real quick here,
Oh, okay.
that I've had since I was like not able to drive.
I love visual aids.
You've seen it before.
I'm sure I'll remember as soon as it comes out.
So I've got a lot of guitars, but this is my favorite electric guitar.
Oh, there it
This
is.
is
Yes,
my
I remember that
20th
one well.
anniversary black Les Paul custom. And here's the back of the neck. If you can kind of see it, there's no
Yeah,
paint on the
there's
back.
a there's a little wear and tear on that.
Yeah, so you know, but they're all cool, man. I love Strats, I love Telecasters, I love Les Pauls. Shit, I had been making fun of banjo players and banjos for a long time. Like my favorite joke would be, yeah, man, I had my banjo in the back of my car and I had to stop at the gas station to go inside. And when I came out, my window was smashed out. And they're like, well, no, that's horrible. Yeah, and there were two banjos back there. But I got a cheap banjo and been messing with it. It's like, man, this is kind of fucking fun. What do you mind
Steve
your
Martin.
keys on a banjo?
Oh, that's part. Well,
And
Steve Martin can do
I've
it,
been
then you can
playing the
do it.
fiddle for like 20 years. For my and I've actually using a looper a lot. I've in my dreams I want to be Stefan Graffelli or John Lupani, but I realized back in the day, even though I play fretless bass and I do play a lot of instruments, to really get worth a fuck on anything, you got to kind of hone in on one
That's fair.
guitar. But
Kind of a master of all, or a jack of all trades and a master of none. So you kind of got to
if you do that,
find
but
that
I mean,
perfect.
look at Prince, man, how he could play anything, and I think it's important. And I love playing drums also, but you know, playing more than one or two songs is difficult. If it depends on what kind of music you're playing too. So I think it's all anything that keeps us playing at this point, brother.
I hear you.
And especially kids nowadays, man. There's so many distractions.
Yeah, Yeah.
between
See a
video
swirling
games
thing
and
around here.
everything else.
Yeah, I have an embarrassing array of guitars around here for somebody who can barely play them. I'm almost ashamed when I talk to somebody like you. It's like, why do you have all this stuff? But one of the things that it kind of motivates me is I'll hear a song, I'll see a YouTube video or I'll hear a song, I'll hear a record or something, and my eyes immediately go to the wall because I got to figure out which guitar fits that
Well,
particular
they're all
tune.
different. You know, you should check out. They're talking to David Gilmour in his basement,
Yeah,
and they show his guitar collection. And he has
yeah.
got every Stratocaster from the first one made to like now. He's got like
Wow.
100 Strats. And they're all
Okay, I
Strats,
got
and
that
he's like
down.
going, and they're all different. They all sound different, and they do.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something else people don't fully grasp. I've talked to, let's call them laymen for right now because calling them idiots would be rude. And they would just say to me, a guitar is a guitar. You just get up there and strum it. And I'm like, no. How do you explain to someone that every guitar has its own character? How do you put that
And
to
you
yourself?
see these stars that only have play one guitar, and they have one guitar. It's like, wow, how the fuck do you do that, man? Because the Strat will do things that a Les Paul won't do, and then vice versa. And an SG. I mean, I got into SGs with Alice Cooper back in the day, man. That
Right.
was the ooh. You got an SG?
I don't know. No, I've got
You
a
should
Les
try an
Paul.
SG
I've got
because
a Les Paul and a
they're
couple of
weird.
Strats.
They're the neck is out here,
I've heard that. They sit funny.
so it's kind of different, and but they got a really unique sound too, So Tommy
I've thought about
Iommi.
it. Yeah, I saw a picture of one somewhere, probably on Instagram. Somebody had, I want to say, a 61, maybe. I could be lying about that. It was like a cherry red with a little tremolo arm on it. I'm like, ooh, that's kind of pretty. Oh wait, he's reaching for stuff.
You like this?
Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, pretty similar to that. Yep,
This
very similar.
I just got this for $300, man. This is a Kalamazoo from Michigan.
Oh, nice,
This
nice.
is
And that
before I think they're before the SGs came out.
okay,
Let's look at the
okay.
pickup on this little son of it, and it sounds like a Strat,
Go
but it's a
figure.
bolt-on neck. So
Go figure.
you know,
That's
every
that's
guitar
another
is
thing.
different, and it makes you play differently. So why the heck wouldn't we want to get one?
Yeah, yeah. One
I
one
would
of
tell
everything.
my wife most of the time she's cool with it, but all my cases are black, and she would never. If I was going to a gig, it's just a black guitar case because they look like purses, but you get like a tweed case or a nice case, like, oh, what's that? Where'd you get
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, nothing. See, that's what I did with
And,
effects pedals. I just I threw the new one on a pile with the other one, so it just looked
and you
like an
can always
addition to
get
the wall.
get your money back on an instrument or an amp, man.
Yeah.
Most times.
Well, while we talk about that, I went during my first guitar renaissance, let's call it that, between 97 and 2007. I had it in my head that the American made instruments were the best one. I'm not going to get a Squire. I'm going to get a Fender. I'm not going to get an Epiphone. I'm going to get a Gibson. But when I came back to it, 5 or 6 years ago, I didn't have that kind of budget. So
Sure.
I have one American Strat. That's my number one. That's Una. But everything else is a Squire or an Epiphone, and I've got a Schecter and what have you. And I think the quality level of these non-American instruments, let's call it that, the more affordable models are almost as good as the American models. Are you experiencing that, or have you noticed a
Yeah,
difference
man.
in
There's not
quality?
really you can't really make a shitty guitar anymore. Look at these Harley Benson guitars they're selling for like $150, $200. It's like, God, man, it's a nice guitar. I mean, back when I was a kid, you didn't have that. You had like, I had a SG copy back then. A National was the brand where you could get them at Grandpa's, where they would be hanging up just without a case, hanging from the ceiling. You could
Right.
put one down. Oh, that's kind of cool. But there's so much. Like if you Google Strat or just get on Reverb and punch in Stratocasters, there's 150,000 Stratocasters
Yep.
on
I do it all the
there.
time.
Why?
Yeah.
Because they're the most popular played guitar.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
makes
and
sense.
I couldn't play a Strat for the longest time, man. I had to learn how to play one. A lot of my favorite players played a Strat, but I'd always hit my pick in the middle pickup. So I learned
Huh.
how to, you have to adjust your. That's why when I teach, I always taught a floating wrist, like McLaughlin's or similar to that. But sometimes you're going to want that. But that way, with that technique, it doesn't matter what kind of guitar. Like most people, if you just only play a Les Paul, you're always going to set your hand right there, and that's where it's going to be. So if you play another guitar, you're like, well, what do I
Right.
do with my hand? So if you leave it up, it doesn't really matter what kind of guitar.
And I remember you teaching me that because I have no issues with the middle pickup. I've been a strata
You use.
banger for forever. Now I finally reached that stage where I realized that there are other guitars that make cool sounds. I mean, I can't do on a Strat what I could do on a Joe Pass,
No,
for example.
no.
So, and I love my Joe Pass. I do. I just need to learn how to play it
Like I got a cheap. I found this. I've never really had a nice jazz guitar. I found this in the trash. This is a
really.
Encore Japanese. The neck was completely off here. I glued it, clamped it, put some good pickups on there, flat wound. I got a nice jazz, decent. I've
Yeah.
done gigs with it. It's got a plywood top. It looks like a nicer guitar than it actually is. Man,
Right.
Japanese have made it, are just all offshore guitar companies. Have made it affordable. Like if I was a young kid wanting a Les Paul or a Strat or Les Paul for one thing, they're like $4,000, three thousand
Yeah.
dollars. I mean,
Minimum.
who's maybe your dad or mom's going to buy it for you, or your trust fund person, but most people can't afford that. And
Yeah.
I've done demos for a long time, and I used to do demos for this place called oh what the Route 66 Guitars. I think they're still on the internet though. But this
Yeah.
guy would go
Heard of
into his house. He was dealing with Gibson Custom Shop, and there would be 10 Les Paul, cream of the crop Les Paul, AAA, Ice T Burst, all these. And you pick one up. Wow, this is really nice. Well, this one's okay, and just like people, they're not all.
I'll just say, and when all else fails, you can add upgrade. You can upgrade your equipment, your hardware within the guitar.
You sure
Uh,
can. And that's a God given right.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like
my
my old
number
Les
two.
Paul, these everything's original on this, but my pickups. I back in the day, of course, you had to have a super distortion DiMarzio,
Of
which
course,
sound
of
like
course.
shit nowadays, but back then that was all it was. So I switched out. I put out, and Seymour Duncan had gotten a divorce from his wife, and he
Yeah.
had to restart a company so she wouldn't get a share of it. So he invented antiquity pickups.
Uh,
I had the first run of antiquity humbucker pickups, and these motherfuckers sound like God himself, man. But
see, see, it's amazing. I mean,
man, you could play the same stuff on a cheap ass guitar, and I've got some. If you look around I have a little bomb shelter. When we bought this house, the guy who made it was a Navy vet, and he built a bomb shelter in his house. It's like three
okay.
feet thick, concrete all around. So I get to play really loud in here. But as you see, man, I've got all my guitars in here, and I've got custom made ones. And I find myself playing the cheap shit, man.
Well, the best players I've always heard can take a piece of plywood and put a wire on it and turn it into something. I
Yeah,
mean,
a nice car. You're not gonna get there any sooner in traffic than a jalopy. So
yeah, yeah.
it's nice, but man, for something that was supposed to be just entertaining as music, I think you've been a musician and into music since you were a kid, even though your army stint and your duty as a policeman, your love for music has still carried you all the way through, and that's
It's a
a
constant.
lot
Yeah.
of things people need to realize, man, that it can't substitute spirituality or getting some kind of bait, but it sure can fucking help, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the other thing I changed about when I first started playing, all I wanted to do was write my own songs. I wasn't qualified, but that's beside the point. All I wanted to do, with a few exceptions, I wanted to learn a King Crimson song or two here and there, but for the most part, I wanted to write my own stuff. Now I'm coming in from the opposite direction. I really love trying to learn other people's material.
Sure.
I was working on Heroes. I was working on Heroes and
Bowie's
losing
hero?
Yeah,
Always.
Bowie's Heroes,
I was
and
just
it's
doing that,
easy.
man.
It's
I
simple.
have a lesson with a guy, and then he's like, "Oh, what is that sound?" I go, "Dude, that's an Ebo."
Yeah,
Like, what's
yeah,
Ebo? And I go, well, let's you get on YouTube, you can see them doing it live. And it's like, man, what a great, I mean, just Bowie in general, man. I mean,
oh
everyone.
yeah, yeah. And I'm learning the rhythm parts, and it's just simple. It's painfully simple. What is it, like four chords? It's no big deal. And I was working on that in REM's "Losing My Religion."
Yeah.
Because I went for my Zoom group. There's like one chord that's a little tricky, and that's when I say to myself, "Hey, I got an idea. Practice, and you'll and
Well,
you'll be able
some
to."
people are like that, Cedric, as you all like. I like to do a lot of fusion and jazz and shit, but I'm not too good to play Sweet Home Alabama or fucking Johnny Be Good. And I played with
Yeah,
some jazz musicians that don't want to play blues or too good to play blues. It's like, man, if you can't play the blues or find something good about that, how could you play like, the new Guthrie Govan
yeah.
song, or whatever? It's like,
And a lot of jazz comes from the blues. So how do
yeah,
you kick that aside? That doesn't make any sense. Now I'm not going to play Sweet Home Alabama either, but I will find a pop tune here and there. I love Amy Mann and what she does. I love
oh
what
yeah,
do I have here? I mean just Mike Keneally stuff, and Mike gave me a lesson. I'll have to tell you about that off the air, but he recorded a lesson for me for my birthday for
awesome.
one of his more challenging tunes. So but I'm building to that. What I'm loving is when I do the singer songwriting stuff, I'm learning the basics again. I've got to learn chords that I didn't play before. It's just something as elemental as a D minor. I don't think I've ever played a D minor in my life, and now it's
Hmm.
essential for a couple of tunes that I'm working on right now, for a Midnight Oil song, for REM and what have you. So it's a good lesson to come at it from the other direction, and then gradually I can build into a into a
And
Jeff
every
Beck
time
or what
I've
have you.
had to learn a billion songs in my lifetime, and I look at it like either for a wedding or for some sort of situation. I look at it like a crossword puzzle. A lot of
Yeah,
times the brain, you'll learn it right off, and I'm pretty good at retaining it. But man, a month or two goes by, it'll get washed out, but it'll
yeah,
still be kind of in it. And if you had to relearn the song, it's not like you have to relearn it. You just kind of go, oh, okay. So it's kind of funny how the brain works
yeah,
on it. But I think it's great to just try to play along with anything.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I finally got smart enough to start writing things down,
Yeah.
so I didn't have to guess anymore. I was like, oh, okay, that's what it was. I'll go ahead and
And then you'll go back to and go, hey man, I like this chord change that I kind of stole from this other thing and make it your own. I mean, that's what we all do anyway.
yeah, yeah. Um, I was going to ask how you've been practicing 3 hours a day and you've got your exercises, but how do you define your overall approach to the instrument? Is there a special methodology, or you just go
A
for it?
harmonic concept. I try to. The most important thing I think about the guitar is just to play what's needed.
Yeah,
And that's the hardest thing for us to do. It's like jumping in different conversations. You wouldn't want to be yelling at someone at a church, or whatever. You just have to, or you see people play that aren't listening. I think listening is more important than playing,
thank
which
you. I
which
say
you've
the same
done
thing all the
more.
time. Yep, I
And just
completely
spending
agree.
hours on the instrument. Like I said, there's so many distractions, but like it can, it's really been my best friend since I've been a kid. My I came up through a hard time where my father had fell off a barge when I was before my 13th birthday, and they never found his body.
Wow.
And at a guitar, I was depressed. Around right after that happened because that's the time when you really need your dad. And I guess, I'd already played. And I remember just kind of my hand. I didn't even want to play anymore. My hand brushed up against the guitar, and it kind of sounded magical to me for some reason. It's like, okay, so this can help me with my depression. So I think it can always be your best friend. You'll never really be lonely with a guitar.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It may not cure all ails, but it's definitely a good step in the right
Or
direction.
you could be like that Canadian guy that tries to play something, gets mad at his guitar and beats his fist up and stuff. All right, good.
I don't
You know,
I don't see the point in abusing my instrument. Nothing
no,
good
he'll
comes
beat
from
himself
that.
up for not being able to play something.
Oh, even worse.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's like,
even worse. You
no,
talk about
man,
listening.
keep it. The world is so heavy now, man. It's just everybody needs to lighten up. I think if we all just got together and did like jammed and played a little bit.
Wouldn't hurt.
Would.
It definitely wouldn't hurt. You talk about listening, and I've said the same thing that listening is more important than playing. And the prime example for me was the fusion band Virtue, where you've got Stanley Clark and you've got Richie Kosen and you've got, I want to say, Karen Griffith playing violin. I may have gotten her last name wrong. And you've got Rachel Z playing keyboards. You've got Lenny White on the drums. You've got five virtuosos up there, and you've got to learn that the best thing you can play sometimes is nothing, and just
Well,
get out of
that's like that super group with McLaughlin, Tony Williams, and Jocko. That didn't work out as planned
yeah,
either.
trio of doom. Yeah,
You know,
so
or the Miles and Hendrix thing didn't quite work out because of whatever.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always a reason, which actually leads me to a next good question. What do you look for in a bandmate when you decide you got to go out, you got to play? What appeals to you?
I used to look for virtuosity when I was younger. Now I just look to how the person is. Like I thought it was funny that Captain Beefheart would choose his bandmates before they played an instrument. He
Interesting.
would choose them by their personality and then teach them to play. That's kind of
Huh.
fucked up.
That's, that sounds a little insane to me. I don't know
It's
why, but
totally insane. But that's how he was, you know. But I think the hang thing and just being in the right, you know, if you want you're playing with someone that is just a me person, that's not cool, you know.
yeah,
You have to
yeah,
be giving and listening. And I always, you know, I had retired and I had gotten tired of, you know, being my age, man. Fucking most people go to bed by 9 o'clock. Nobody goes out to clubs or anything. So it's just the whole thing has been, you know, you would kind of go, well, why am I even bothered doing this? Or if I would put out a record and not get any feedback on it, and you're like, why? The next thing you know, I'm set at my little 16 track recording parts or looping stuff, and go, well, this is kind of cool. And we basically do it just for our own sanity. And if
yeah.
sometimes it might get noticed, it might not. Who gives a fuck, man? And that's how where I'm at this point. You know, I'm
I
just
like it.
glad to still be playing and knocking it out. You know, I played out this weekend twice, and it was like, fun. This is kind of fun. I remembered it, but you know, I've been sober 6 years too, so it's no fun to be in a bar and playing dance music for a bunch of drunk people. I'm don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I just interviewed someone who said her father passed away, and he was an addict. I want to say he was an alcoholic, if I remember correctly, and she is out on her own right now, and she refuses to play bars now. She will not, she will not play in a bar. She'll play house concerts and things like that, but she won't play in a bar because she doesn't want to be around that culture anymore. So I can kind of understand that. Because
But I'm back to that. I mean, I can be around a bar, and I understand not everybody's an alcoholic.
yeah,
You have that
yeah.
chemical in your brain where you might be that dude that can have like two or three drinks and be cool. You know, I wasn't. I wasn't that guy.
See, I'm that guy because I have that rule. You get two drinks, and that's it.
That's the
That's
military in you, because I remember playing. I played at Thule Air Force Base, and several of the, you know, we did all these DoD tours, and I played all over the place. And in Thule Air Force days in Greenland, two beers minimum, and then I
yeah,
played in Puerto Rico and like all the bars, the military bars, two beers.
yep. That's what you get. So enjoy it while you can. Man,
Yeah.
Thule, I haven't heard that name in a while. Go figure. Um, it's for fun. Where's the best place you ever played? Where's the best place you ever gigged? I'm just curious.
Mm, wow. You know, I haven't played it yet. I haven't played it
Oh,
yet.
okay, okay.
I've played a lot of places, man. I mean, uh, I haven't done it yet, Cedric.
That's fair. That's fair. How about the worst place? There's got to be
Oh,
one of those.
it's
There's got to
funny,
be a
though.
nightmare story
But you
out
know
there.
what? In the music business, it works like this, and it's true. You will remember the coolest gig you got is almost like more powerful than any heroin or drug, whatever. It lets you forget about 1,000 shitty jobs.
That makes sense.
That next one is probably the biggest buzz, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a big job or a concert, you know, where it's all about me and my music. It's like, I don't know. I think probably, you know what? I think one of the biggest, coolest things I did when I did a DoD tour, we did a Puerto Rico, Panama, Haiti, uh, and some other place, but it was I had lost my voice, and nobody else in the band sang, and I had to play for a bunch of Marines, and it was
Oh, geez.
they said, well, why don't you do the Star Spangled Banner? I go, well, just guitar. I go, yeah, go ahead and do that. So they had them all lined up, and when I played it, I was just kind of my eyes closed playing, and when I looked up, man, they were all saluting and crying. It was like, oh man, that was a big, that probably
Yeah,
meant more to me than you could play for a million drunk, fucked up people going, yeah, so.
agreed. I mean, as I was sitting there thinking about, oh yeah, the time I spent doing one of these numbers, what have you doing the
Unlike
Star Spangled
another
Banner? What have
instance that has nothing to do with that, like say widow comes in with the family, dad died, and his
yeah,
guitar's fucked up, and they ask Jimmy to fix it up. So he'll fix it up, and I'll come back in a month, and I'll bring it out to him. Yeah, and he'll, uh, could you play it so we could hear it? And I'll go, well, what kind of music did Dad play, and what they like, and they'll tell me, and I'll think about it, and I go, and I'll try to play something according to that he played on, and you look up, and they're all crying. It's like, you know, that's where music touches you, more
yeah.
than
That's a good
accolades of
point.
people. Oh, you're the greatest, or that, because like I said, there is no fucking greatest, man.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Working in a shop, having people bring stuff in that they think is valuable, but it's not. How often do you get that legend of the guy that whose relative died and they pulled the guitar case out from under the couch and brought it to you and it was something
I have a perfect
to
story
go
for you.
with? All right.
2 months ago, two guys came. They are from East St. Louis, brothers, nice guys. They came in and they said brought in it was just in a burlap bag. They didn't have a case where to go. This has been under the bed since Dad died. Mama said it would be okay to take the guitar out and sell it, and we know you guys are fair, so they brought it in. They didn't know anything about it. Well, we take it out of the bag and look at it. It's a '57 fucking Strat,
Wow.
and I'll send
That's
you a picture of it, and it looks like Roy Gallagher's Strat. So, and we come to find out their dad played with Ike Turner back in '55.
holy
So
cow.
he got the guitar in '57. Ike played it for a while, and then he got it back. So it's been under the bed. So when we looked at it and they're standing there looking at it, Jimmy goes, well, this might be worth close to $35,000. They were both leaning on the counter, and it was like one of those antique roadshow moments. You're like, what? One brother had to hold the other brother up. I'm going, yeah, man, you guys did good, and
Yeah.
I've done demos on it on the Gravity website. And it's for sale right now, but it's Cedric, this fucking Strat, man, the pickups alone. If you get on Reverb, you can go to Gravity's site and check out their
Okay.
'57 Strat and listen to this motherfucker.
Okay.
There's
Just fine.
something about those old ones, man. So
I
that's
was just
one
about to ask
instance,
if there was, did you feel a major difference between the old ones and the newer ones? And
Oh, totally. And I have two '74 Strats that I bought 25 years ago at Gravity. I had my '72 Strat in my telly in my truck. I was playing at Pops the night before, and a guy wanted a CD, so I stopped in after a gig and dropped the CD off. When I came out, my truck was smashed into, and they stole my guitars.
uh,
So I had to get another one. I bought one similar for $400. Now it's worth like 4 grand. The '74
wow.
Strat.
So, that's better then. And I give you guys points, for being honest about the value of those things. I've heard tales of people taking guitars like that into a pawn shop and the guy saying, "Okay, I'll give you $300 for it,"
Oh, I know.
knowing
I
that
know
it's
a
worth
person that did that.
thousands.
No, that's not cool, man. That I've had guys come in. A guy, older gentleman, came in with Echoplex, Cedric, one of the green ones in mint
Yeah.
condition. It was used in
Oh my.
church. So he came in and wanted to sell it, and we gave him a good price for it. Older guy, and we had set it on amp on the side, and he was walking out. As he's walking out, he leaned over and kissed it. Walked
It
out.
was
You're like, see,
special.
that's how attached we are to these, and it's the fucking Echoplex, man. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, as you bring that up, that's something else that people don't grasp. A guitar is not just a guitar, and there's an intimate relationship between the musician and his instrument. You don't just grab something off the rack and walk out with it. There has to be a connection there. How
Yeah,
long does it take you to feel like you've bonded with something?
5 minutes, man. I can tell if a guitar is happening, and even if it's not strung up right, you can just tap the fucking guitar, man, and see, oh, okay. Like this right here weighs about 20 pounds, probably. It sounds like a coffee table.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. My shoulder aches just looking at that thing. And
Yeah, I know. I know.
I was hoping I wasn't crazy because the '96 Strat I bought from your shop, and Dave, God rest his soul, handed it to me when I walked in and I just saw it, and you guys had just taken it in. Guy paid like $1,100 for this '96 Strat, didn't like it, brought it in, and half an hour later I walked in and just, oh, that one.
Yeah.
and I, and I,
It'll pick you.
I'm sorry.
It'll pick you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And all I did was strum an open E chord, and I just looked at Dave, how much? Because
Hmm.
this is it. That guitar stayed with me for quite a while, and if not for private school tuition, that's we're not going to go into that here,
I
boys
have
and
sell
girls. But
guitars too that I wish I didn't. But they're just pieces of wood, man. Like the one I just showed you. I've had the guitar since I was 13, and I got it. I had a Fender Telly back then that I had mowed lawns for 2 years to buy, and I always wanted a Les Paul. And I met this guy that would wreck his car and get guitars with the money instead of getting it fixed. So I traded my Telly for this Les Paul and like
huh,
lessons for 6 months from this guy named Buddy. And now I think the Telly would be worth more.
yeah,
Like it's a 74 20th anniversary, and a 74 Telly is worth about 6 grand now, and the Les
wow.
Paul is only worth about five. So kind of funny how
And
that works out.
or you could just buy a new Les Paul for 7 or 8 thousand if you feel like it. That's I
Well,
just
I had bought a '56 Les Paul Custom from Jimmy 22 years ago for
yeah,
$3,000,
wow,
and our house on the South Side, St. Louis, with my two kids and a bunk bed in one room, and it was a starter house. We needed a bigger house, so had to have collateral. So I put that thing up for sale. I think I got 17,000 for it, which was a great down payment for our house.
yeah, yeah.
It was funny when we were. You had to have proof of money. We're like, oh, our collateral is a '56 Les Paul Gibson, and the guy's like going, "How could a guitar be worth that much money?" I'm like going, "Dude, these Martin guitars are the fucking, you know, half 300 for the left 59 Les Paul will go up to $1 million very soon."
Wow.
Let's put it that way.
So hang on. No, no, I don't think I have that on me right now. I'm going to have to deal with what I have. But I'll tell you what, I bought an Epiphone Les Paul for $400, and I love that instrument.
Yeah,
I, I absolutely love that instrument. And I had an American Les Paul. I had a '74 Les Paul that I never should have gotten rid of, but that's a whole different thing. But I'm perfectly happy,
here's
playing
what I
that
do.
$400 instrument.
Two 250. Look at this.
Or visual aids. I love visual aids. See, and I would never know that was 250 just
Black
looking
Les
at
Paul Custom bolt-on neck. It's a we're not sure what it is. It doesn't even have anything on the headstock, but it's a Chinese guitar and it plays great. And I use
it.
that when I play outside, and I don't want to take my good shit outside. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
funny, man. Like it's all good, Cedric.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Well, plug yourself for a second. Tell us about the new record.
I put a record out right at the end of the pandemic called "Hold On," which I got uh, Rich. Several people from Guns N' Roses. I got to jam on me on that one. I have Jimmy Griffin on that one. I have there is a soul singer I had on town, Roland Johnson, that sang on that, and he actually passed away like 6 months after we did the record. So it's all
Wow.
over the place. I'm working on a new one right now. Actually, two. My 14th and 15th, I have like a fusion record, and I got like a blues type soul record coming out too. So I've always been a vocalist besides being a guitar player. So I've always kind of treaded that line of,
Yeah,
if I could
yeah,
write some Steely Dan type bluesy with hip chord changes is what I'm always thinking about in my mind. Something that, regular blues, but with a twist on it. I've read like 5 songs and odd time signatures. Nobody gives a shit about those, but I still love fusion and prog too.
Boy, but well, you know, odd time doesn't sound odd to me. You know, one of my
Right, right.
yeah,
So, I'm always working at this age. I don't expect anything, man. I'm just glad to still be playing and excited about playing. And
yeah,
I think it's important to play with people you like and venues you like and cool. You don't play shit you don't have to. I'm at that point now. I get Social Security. I teach privately, and I still work at the guitar shop, and I'm doing okay. I don't. Um,
there's no pressure to create a big hit right now or anything.
right, why would that would happen anyway? But you never know, man. Just to keep on doing it, and
Makes
keep
sense.
plugging at it. That's all we can do. Just keep fresh and be open and try to get better. That's my motto, man.
Works for
Trying
me.
to trying to go to the gym and stay clean and work on shit, man. That's a full-time job right there, anyway,
Well,
for
to keep you
me.
busy, that's the
And
important
I'm
thing.
married. Just had my 20th anniversary. My wife, she puts up with me, and I think she'd like me to start playing. My 2 kids, my youngest is about ready to go to college next year for hopefully for basketball. So, and my oldest is going to be a pipe fitter. I got him a gig at the place right across from Gravity. I would run into these
Yeah,
guys all the
yeah,
time.
that
Hey,
place. Yeah,
my boy's looking for a job. So it's kind of fun just seeing everything grow up and I'm probably start doing some regional touring again if they get, so they don't need me anymore. They both have their own cars and their own jobs. So,
well,
you know,
feel free to come to Chicago.
I'm
You
going to book some jobs in Chicago and go crash your house,
all right.
your apartment
That
there.
right behind me, man. The futon is open in my office. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
it's not a
it's
problem.
always nice talking to you, my brother.
Oh, you too, brother. You too, brother. I really appreciate you taking the time, and we could talk about a variety of other things. But like I said, this is a conversation, and I didn't write down any questions or anything like that. I just
Well, yeah.
like to have this chat. It's a beautiful thing, and we
Well, I
need to do it
appreciate.
more
Speaking for all the musicians, man. We appreciate you shining a light on us that wouldn't necessarily get shown, and you've always had big ears, dog. So,
often. It's always been my pleasure. I've always appreciated. So we will see you down the road, brother.
all right,
try,
Cedric, love you,
try to
man.
stay out of trouble. Talk to you soon.
Bye
Take
bye,
care.
buddy.